Hillside Gardener back here with you, and today I'm going to plant some petunias from seed and just show you just how easy it can be. Okay, so I've had a couple people ask me how I plant petunias. I don't know, maybe it's just they're thinking about doing it, never done it before, so I'll bring you guys along and show you what I do. Now this variety here, these are dwarf bedding petunias, mixed colors. So it said growing height is only 12 to 15 inches, which I'm going to like that a little better, because if you don't know, there's a trailing type of petunia and some that just go crazy and you got to pinch them back. And these are more common for, I guess, like a hanging basket or something. So I got some room on the front porch. I always like to include some flowers, so I think these might be more of a compact variety, so try them out. But if you've never grown petunias from seed or even seen petunia seeds, which I'm sure if you've ever grown them, you're always, you pinch off the little seed heads, whatever, seed capsules, and it looks like black pepper. That's extremely sticky because petunia seeds are, well, and their leaves for that matter, are a little bit of stickiness to them. So anyhow, let me show you the seeds if they'll focus. Right there, and this looks just like little pieces of black pepper. No big deal. So when you plant these, one thing I have found from experience is you make sure you just take a little bit. Right here in my hand, I can count probably about 20 seeds in just this little tiny thing, not even a pinch of anything. So when you're gonna start planting these out, just barely feel it in your fingertips. Just sprinkle around the entire area of your container that you're using, okay? It's really that simple. Now, one thing about petunias is they're gonna need sunlight to germinate. So right now, I sprinkle these lightly on top of the soil. It's been pre-moistened. I'm just gonna very lightly just press it in, okay? Very easy, just press it in, make sure it has good soil contact, okay? Now just like that. So that was the easy part. What's really difficult is when you plant them like this, and this is what I do. If you feel free, if you get a big cell, a 72, 24, 36 cell tray, and you want to individually try to drop 1 or 2 little seeds in each cell, that way you don't have to divide them later, that's perfectly fine as well. Myself, I find it's easier and it saves a lot more space because I try to grow a lot of things in my windows, and I have grow lights upstairs on a table set up there. That just takes up a lot of room and prevents me from growing other things in that same space. So it's really simple just to do this, and as long as you don't overly sow them too dense, sorry, because you don't sow them deep at all. It's a trick question, see if you're paying attention, because you sow them on top of the soil. But I mean, right in here, there's probably 200 seeds in here, which is just insane. So if I were to take this whole package of seeds and just sprinkle it around, well, petunias have a very high germination rate in my experience. So you're gonna have just a green carpet, and good luck trying to divide those up. You'll probably kill 90% of them just trying to prick them out and get them into individual cups. So right here, like I said, there's probably 20 in here. Of the 20, probably 12 to 15 will be the strongest ones that I'll select, and then very gingerly you can get a pencil. I mean, I've used pencil just to barely just prick out the little seedlings and just transplant them into individual containers, and they do just fine. So let me go ahead and show you here what to expect in roughly 6 to 8 weeks time by doing this, and I'll show you the results of what I've done, and just so you can kind of see what to expect, okay? One more thing I forgot to tell you. Always keep a nice spray bottle for watering your plants, especially seeds that you've sown on top, especially like petunias, because if you try to take a watering can and splash it on top, it's going to stir the soil around, the seeds are going to float around or just get dislodged, or maybe go too far deep, and then they're not going to get in contact with good sunlight, so the amount of germination is going to be greatly affected. So once you've planted your petunias, I just like to get there, and like I said, this is pre-moistened soil, which is very important as well, so the seeds has good contact with the surface there. And then I just want to soak this down, okay? Don't be afraid to over water it at first, something like that, as long as your container has good drainage on the bottom. That's what you want anyhow. You want the water to actually be freely to flow through. So you don't want to just come in here and just, like I said, just dump a bunch of water in, because that's going to just dislodge your seeds and defeat the purpose of trying to get these seeds spread out so you can never divide them up later. So here is roughly 4 to 6 weeks time frame has passed on this lot here, and as you see, so if you can see right here, these have been placed into individual cells. There's one here, one here, one I think I think this guy here may have 2 inside of it, and most of them I was very careful and put just 1. And sorry guys, just the smell, just touching the leaves of the petunias. If you've never grown them before, the smell on it is something I really like. Some people don't grow petunias because they don't like the kind of a mustier smell, but I guess I'm just weird like that. That's just how I am. So anyways, this is about 4 to 6 weeks. I forget exactly. I sowed these in several different batches, but I did the same thing. You know, I started all the seeds into one little container, and that one container was then allowed to grow to a certain size, and then I just divided them up. Okay, so this is what you can expect. If you really want to, you can just put a couple seeds in each of these little cells here, and just without having to divide them up, which is fine if you have plenty of space for these containers just to stack up, or if you're only growing a few plants and you don't have the problem I do with way too many plants, this may be the better option for you know, guys and gals out there who may not have as much experience with dividing and thinning out seedlings and transplants, etc. So these guys were planted on New Year's Day. This is part of my hillside tradition. I always plant some seeds on New Year's Day to kind of break in the new year, whatever, just kind of keeps me from going bored in the wintertime. But if you look down in there, that's not the best light, but I mean, these guys are in there pretty dense, and they're only 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. There's 8 in this little container right here. There's 4 on each side, and you can see how much larger they are. I mean, if you look right here, this is about 4 weeks or so, 8 weeks. Okay, these have only been fertilized once, I think, and they're under the LED grow lights 24/7. Turn them on about 6 in the morning, turn them off about 7, 8 p.m. So 12 to 14 hours of daylight is going to get these guys off to a great start. And I think I do need to fertilize these because the soil medium has basically probably started to run out of nutrition. As you see, the leaves here are very healthy. They're still green. They're getting slightly pale, so they do need a little bit of fertilizer because this little container, let's face it, doesn't have enough food to keep these guys alive until I'm ready to put them outside, which is going to be another 2 months. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have flowering petunias inside my house, which was the goal. Okay, so if you were like me and you just want to have plants growing in your house, you have a nice sunny window and you like seeing flowers and things, that's cool. But if you're gonna start these seeds to plant outside and you don't want to keep them alive inside your house forever, 6 weeks. So go back to your frost date. Petunias are very cold sensitive plants, so do not start them too early like I have, unless you want to have flowering plants and mature plants inside, because trust me, they will keep growing and they will not stop. Once they get going, they don't slow down. So the last one I want to show you, and just something I found out on accident, these were also started on January 1st, and if you see right next to it, they're the biggest ones. Okay, right here, see the stems starting to elongate right there, and right in here, it's probably the first signs that it's going to start producing flowers. Okay, so I'll tell you a story. I was working a couple weeks ago, and we had to work about 12-hour shifts and had to work through the weekend. We had just a lot going on, and I'd come home and I completely forgot to water my plants. I was just so tired, wasn't paying attention. Then one day I came home and I'm like, oh man, I need to water my plants, and this little flat right here was completely wilted down. I thought it was completely dead. The soil was completely bone dry. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've somehow missed this entire flat of petunias right here. And so I just soaked them all with water, just as much water as I could, hoping for the best, hoping that 1 or 2 might perk up and survive the night. I came back in the morning, they looked a little healthier. It looked like most of them were gonna survive, but they didn't seem that they were very happy. And about 3 days later, they just decided they were going to rise from the dead and have just about doubled in size in the last week. So doing some research on that, I guess it's actually a common trait or a common thing to do in the greenhouse industry is to stress the plants like this. So if you ever noticed in the spring when you go and all the plants you get at the big box stores or at your local nursery or something are already blooming. Okay, it's not even past your first frost date, and I won't really get into it, but people, they ship in mass market things from other states, et cetera, and from wholesalers and sell them down to your resellers. But if you're doing this for yourself, if you stress your plants, this is what they do. Okay, if you stress the plants, and as they come back to life, I guess it stimulates. Maybe they think that they're life cycle is about to come to an end and they need to put on some flowers to just kind of, complete that cycle of life there. So they're, in a rush to say, hey, something's wrong here. We need to start blooming. I don't know. So I kind of found that out on accident. So there you go. But growing petunias from seed, so easy. Anybody can do it. Just don't overseed them. Trust me, I've done that. And then it's really difficult to separate them out. So if you guys did like this or learned anything or were entertained or anything like that, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. If you want to watch some more, go ahead and subscribe. Tons of plant stuff coming up. Spring's around the corner, and it's going to be tons more things published up here about what I'm growing, what I'm starting. We'll show you the gardens, etc., etc. So please go ahead and join for the hillside adventure. Hope you all enjoyed this. I'll see you next time here on the hillside. All right, bye-bye.